Alright, windy day, and but I'm outside. Got back to the old routine. Walk and talk video. It's been so long. Yeah, it's not very good weather for it. Wind and all and such. But the Obsidian Team guy, I suppose I'll talk to him. I don't know if he's really going to mind it. Video might be a little rambly or extra. Anyway, I think so. Alright, so the key components, I guess, of what he's talking about is the idea of hope. And the idea of free will seems something he's distracted by. And that these somehow add up to some necessity, to look favorably upon the fables of old. I.e., religious nonsense, storytelling, babble, bad guesses at reality. Anyway, so the first half of his video, he's basically agreeing with some of my points, and then the second video he made, he's making some sort of energy theory God thing. But just, obviously you can pull selected quotes out of the Bible. You could make something make some sense, maybe, but it's not going to make any sense to me. So, come on. Been there, done that in terms of trying to make the Bible comprehensible, and it's not. It's just a silly story. Evolution is a fact. Flounders, their eye migrated to the other side of their head. So, a fish found that it was to its advantage to disguise itself by lying on the bottom of the ocean. And then its biology changed through adaptation to conform to that strategy. And it's a fact. It's not a fiction. It's certainly not something a god would create. A flounder whose eye, where all the biological evidence indicates its eye migrated to the other side of its head. Why would a god create a flounder? It's got evolution written all over it, and it's got God not written all over it. It's like a great there is no God argument is the flounder. For that reason, that it's proof, decisive proof, of non-creation, non-static creation, a proofed universe. Clearly, there was no will involved in the modification of the flounder to its environment. It was just a kind of logical consequence of a strategy conformed to. So one part of its biology conformed to a strategy, and the rest of the biology followed. So it wasn't like there was any freedom or choice or decision. It was an obligation of the circumstance. Our will is exactly the same thing. Our will is conforming to patterns of our evolution as thinking machines and as knowledge bases. Knowledge bases become cleaner and better with time. You're sort of an unintuitive anti-example of that, in the sense that you're not wishing to improve your knowledge base. The evidence isn't environmentally compelling you to migrate, to move your eye to the other side of your head, which seems the logical thing to do, to get away from your bibble-babble fables and accept where the evidence is pointing, which is that God is a fable and evolution is a fact, and you have no free anything. There's no such thing as a free. And you are a byproduct, though. Now, to have a byproduct will, a consequential will, is not saying nothing, it's saying something. So you have your philosopher quotes of people who find the idea of lacking free choice to be unacceptable, beyond comfort, beyond, they just can't accept a life of the drone. But we're not drones. Memes are evolving rapidly. Understanding is evolving rapidly. Change is all around us and is manifest constantly. And so it's not like you're being conformed in very crude ways. You're being conformed in highly elaborate and complex ways, just like the migration of the flounder's eye. This is not a simple process, it's a complex process. The forces are simple in the sense that the incentives are crude. The time is long, just as our 10,000 years of civilization is a long time relative to our lifespans. And look at the progress we've made in that 10,000 years, 20,000, whatever number you want to use. And so the same with our psychologies and philosophies. These are not constructs of our own. We're byproducts of the environment. The environment has horse shit in it. My brain has horse shit in it. My environment has things. Those things end up inside my head. My head mimics the world, mimics the logic it sees in it, the conformity to structure and patterns and probabilities. I understand these concepts. I think in patterns reflecting them. And what we are sort of discussing is this habit or pattern of the human that is driven by two forces: the selfish, mechanical, physiological, old world ape kind of human that exists inside of us, the 4 billion year old bug that's still doing the consuming and reproducing thing, and doing it through psychological impulses, and now compounded with these social constructs of attachment and bonding that take place in our psychology that add nuance and complexity to our interaction, decide what will make you horny or hungry, what kind of food you will eat, and what kind of things you will molest. These are psychological structures. We don't choose them. They're byproducts of our maturation and the environment of that maturation. That is clear. You don't just decide what's attractive. You don't get to decide what smells good. These are physiological mechanisms. And then we have, this least compulsive element of our brain, which is the mapper, the thing that takes this stuff in and looks for patterns. And that thing has a voice and an opinion, and it has to use the mechanisms of psychology to pull strings. It doesn't have any direct strings, so it has to nuance the psychology to get things done. It has to make the psychology think it's in its own selfish interest to be selfless. It has to manipulate the world, the view of the world, to make it visible to the monkey that it's in its long-term interest to do a certain thing. That in the end it will win if it follows a strategy where it might incur some damage or harm in the short term. These are things the intellect can make visible. But the intellect does that through, again, exposure. Ideas and the nutrients of ideas must be present. You have to have the parts. You could have, 2 sticks and a pillow. And, that's not a crutch. But with a little bit of nuancing with understanding and some understanding of mechanics, you can easily make a crutch and use it and successfully compensate for a deficit. So it's not like somebody has to hand you the truth or hand you an accurate description, but if they have to, definitely you have to have the pieces. You have to acquire the pieces before you can fill in the blanks. You have to connect some of the dots before you can put the other dots in and build a detailed picture. So I could argue to you, I suppose, that from my perception, you're using some vague, mushy language to create your own dots of fable and fantasy that don't have any correlation to the reality. They're just the testimony of compulsive liar humans that doesn't mean anything. You're trying to draw a better picture. You're drawing a picture that says, go west, young man. West is Jesus or whatever. And you're trying to make an argument for that, but you're making the pointing finger out of crap, out of dots you made up, out of dots that are fairy tales, that have no correlations to this reality, to the flounder's eye. There's no mechanism obliging you to do that, except some mechanism inside of yourself where you have been conditioned or in some way made comfortable or desirous of this wrong answer being the right answer. Maybe one of your favorite relatives was a religious kook, and you want to validate what you perceive to be maybe their very honorable and decent life. I don't know. I don't have an explanation for why you feel the need to contrive this fable, this modification, your modification of the fable, turn the sun into the Son, the Son of God, play, to take a bad metaphor and metaphor some more on it, to get double drunk on bullshit, and that's sort of what I'm seeing. You're just double drinking, double intoxicated. Refining a bad story is, that's just doom. A bad blueprint, modified by bullshit is, you're really in trouble. So, I don't want to beat to death. We've been over this free will stuff. It just doesn't exist. Freedom wouldn't have a source. Your free will would have to come from something that initiated it. There's nothing inside of you that could generate a free. That's like you generating nuclear power or something from inside of you. There's no engine for it. You don't have any free pillow. You don't have a free maker. There's no such thing as a free. And so all you have is a structured perception. And like I said, it's so complex and so nuanced that it doesn't need to be free. the diversity of direction that people can take is quite obvious. They change one little pile of pixels here. Is that in the image? One little pile. Change that, and the whole thing changes. And that's sort of what the world we're living in. You can see it in the diversity of people. Single little events in their life, and they go in completely different directions. Their image of the world is completely reconstructed. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of describing to each other reality. And that's the joke of part of what you're saying, is that somehow life would be meaningless without free will. I say that's silly. The meaning comes from the sensations, and the meaning of the truth is in conveying it and having it respected and having it, people being obedient to it. So of course there's huge meaning in conversation and persuasion, because that's how wills are changed. Wills are changed by experience. Wills are changed through this process of communication, through this process of, maybe I can say this or describe this in such a way where you'll understand and modify the pixels and fix your broken model of reality. So there's plenty of work to do here, and it's very important work, because depending on how quickly we evolve to correct answers, and my argument is we are tending to establish correct answers, just like the flounder's eye is tending to move to the other side of its head, because that's where it's more conducive, more productive. The truth is more productive. We're migrating there out of the practical necessity that you need to know the physics to be able to make a snowman, for example. You need to know to not get food poisoning or whatever the thing is. You need to understand how the world works for your own selfishness. And that selfish need to get the answers right has the side effect of making us get the answers right on philosophical questions that don't necessarily have anything to do with our desire to make a snowman or our personal interest. So having a mind that tends to want truth, because truth tends to be more productive in its impact on behavior, has this side effect where the truth will trap us into being obliged to acknowledge truths we may not wish were true. And there's great promise in that fact in terms of reason to hope, reason to believe. Humans can recognize at minimum wasted suffering, and do something to minimize it, to prevent it, that they can understand the logic of not wasting suffering. That minimum is something, and the fact that minimum exists also creates the opening for a bigger and better result of having, the perfect storm of meme making, where we are able to step way beyond just being barely fixing, being minimally productive and being maximally productive, getting the most out of our potential in terms of our capacity to accept reality and respond to it with a proper reaction conducive to the circumstance. And yes, we're being controlled by the facts. We're being controlled, by a truth. But that's the game we're in. The truth should control us. It's good to be controlled by the truth. It's good to be controlled by facts. Freedom is obnoxious to productivity if you have access to facts. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So anyway, yeah, I made it. Yeah, I haven't been here in like a month and a half. Poor pool. See if it survived a month or two. Yeah, the tiles must have had a bad year. Woodpecker hasn't made any new holes. Oh, that's good. Guards, he did peck at the guards a lot. But anyway. So, until the next time and such. Oh, I'm back. Might as well do a little add-on. A couple of little housekeeping things and such. So, yeah, my landlord was on the phone for 4 hours. 4 hours trying to get an answer, from the electric company. But no answers. Anyway, on the subject of stuff. Anyway, yeah, the morbid atheist had pointed out that his father was in one of the buildings that I think blew up in Harlem, gas explosion or something. Anyway, lost everything. So, obviously, relative to that, I have very little to complain about. And, morbid atheist is such a nice guy. I was thinking about that. You can really tell people, people's character. There are little ways to read it, and it's never met a person who was nice to a turtle who I didn't like. Yeah, it's kind of a good indicator of decent humanness is somebody who'd be nice to a turtle. Just works out that way, I think. Yeah, turtles are the indicator stone of human character. Anyway, what else? I thought there was some other. Yeah, so I don't know what to do. I don't think he wants me to have a telethon or something, but it's bad enough living in Harlem, frankly. To live in Harlem and lose everything. Anyway, maybe Maine's the place to be. Yeah, Puro. Anyway, so I haven't heard much from Puro. I don't know how the cats are. These cats don't like to move. Anyway, nope. Be trying to swim back to Hawaii. Really is passable now with the snow, but there's still, it's wet, my feet are wet and cold. It's just still kind of a drudgery, to walk it. It's tiresome. A lot of prickers back here. I have to get rid of those. I have to. There's a lot of I have to's. I gotta do a lot of shit. So anyway, just figured I know there was some third item of interest. I'm not going to remember it. Ugh. Nope, I don't think I will. So anyway. I like this tree. It's woody. Big wood tree. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's all. Yeah, it's probably just enough, right? So till next time, and such.